The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. And by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff, in stock at coolstuffinc.com. The Dice Tower, episode 615.
F is for fun.
Whee! Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On today's show, I have a musical interlude, and Tom reviews the latest game in the Kenny G universe. Plus, we answer some questions from the mailbag, and we get fantastical with our top 10 games that start with the letter F. I'm Eric Summerer, and joining me now, the Freddie Farkas frontier pharmacist of board gaming, Tom Vassell.
I don't get it at all.
I know. I think my references have been way too straightforward lately, so I was going as obscure as possible with a 1993 Sierra Online point-and-click adventure game. Freddie Farkas, Frontier Pharmacist.
Okay, sure.
I was just looking for F names. Yes, it's like a Western, and he's this guy, and he had a theme song. I really liked the theme song. Anyway,
so what?
Farkas, Freddie Farkas, I liked it.
Well, is it something we can legally play on the podcast?
Ooh. It's probably old enough that no one would care. Maybe it's worth tracking down. Oh, future Eric! Sometimes past Tom and Eric, I really don't like the two of you. Yes, I found the theme song. Freddie Farkas Frontier Pharmacist was a game from Sierra Online that was about a gunslinging cowboy who lost his ear in a gunfight and went to school to become a pharmacist. Here's the song.
Now our hero Freddie Farkas, with wounded pride and earless carcass, vowed to the heavens to give up gunnery. He'd be better off, he reckoned, with a lifelong dream that always beckoned vessels, not pistols, and pharmacology. Farkas, Freddie Farkas.
You know what? I think you get the idea. Let's get back to the show. Back to you guys.
Alrighty, folks. Well, after that nonsense, I'm Tom Vassell.
Hi there. I'm Eric Summerer.
Hey, we're glad to be here. We just got back from Dice Tower Con, so I believe the last episode everyone's listened to has been the Dice Tower Awards.
It has indeed, and I've seen some very positive congratulations for the winners of those awards. Great job.
Well, we got to give credit to where credit is due, folks. Eric is the voice of the awards and the voice of the show, and does a lot of work putting all that stuff together.
Oh, it's fine. We've already talked about all that. I'm just glad it went well. I haven't seen any complaints, which is the chief problem. All I hear in my day-to-day work is you pronounced this wrong. So, me getting it right is a good thing.
Alrighty. Well, if you came to Dice Tower Convention, we hope that we had a chance to see you. If not, maybe we'll see you in the future. We appreciate it, and it was an absolutely fantastic con, and I think half the games we're talking about today have come from that con.
Absolutely. I had a fantastic time. Kudos to the organizers, the volunteers, everybody who showed up. It was a party the whole time we were there. I loved it.
Really, it was. It was a great time, and yes, I'll echo what Eric said. Thanks to everybody who was involved in any shape or form. It was run extremely well. We did make an announcement right after the con, and we're talking about the future here. So if you haven't heard, Dice Tower Con is going to be changed to Dice Tower East next year. So we'll talk more about this as time goes by. You can check out our Dice Tower East Facebook group if you want to be more involved.
I should join that.
Yeah, you probably should. Well, actually, by this time, you have joined it.
Oh, excellent. Anything I don't have to do myself.
So we don't want to keep rehashing the same things over and over again, but what's essentially happening is Dice Tower Convention was a separate convention from the rest of ours, and we're bringing it kind of in the fold with Dice Tower West, Dice Tower Cruise, and Dice Tower Retreat. So it's going to be Dice Tower East. It's going to change in size because I wanted to have a more manageable size convention. Also, we had to leave the Caribe Royale with our contract there was up. Couldn't be renewed, really. And so we found a new place, the Florida Mall. Well, not the Florida Hotel, at the Florida Mall.
Right. We're not playing games in the food court.
No, but I think after you... No, you did eat at the food court, right?
I did. It was a lovely food court.
It's actually a really huge food court, and that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to next year is not having to go far to get food.
Yeah, we should back up a second. The Florida Hotel is attached to the Florida Mall, so it's a quick jaunt to all sorts of food options.
Right, and it's pretty neat. There's also different things in the mall for people to do, I guess. I don't think gamers will be going to the mall too often, but it was still a lot of fun. And one of the things, Roy was amazed that there was a sushi, one of those rolling sushi things right outside the door of the Florida Hotel.
I am going to that sushi place as soon as I possibly can. I've never done a conveyor belt sushi restaurant, so I'm looking forward to it.
Now, of course, we understand that change is change, and not all change is, welcomed and stuff. The change, it was going to happen, folks, regardless. There was going to be change this year. Again, our contract was up with the Caribe and everything. And, of course, the change of me taking a more personal vested interest in the convention. However, I'm going to have a whole bunch of people and staff who are going to handle most of that for me, and we're doing our best to find the best folks for that, and we'll be announcing them as time goes by. We already have several people who were running the different things at Dice Tower Convention, helping us in that regard. So it's exciting. It's scary, obviously, because change can be scary, but I can't tell you how impressed I am with the staff of this hotel, and just, it just feels exciting because we're going to be able to take this hotel and make it ours.
Yeah, it's really exciting to tour the space and find out ways to make it exciting and different and also familiar in a lot of the ways that made Dice Tower Con also a fun event. Okay,
so we're not going to belabor the point here right now. There's lots of places to talk about this, and also I talk about it almost every Monday Q&A I do on the video channel. We have a Facebook group, so we want to talk about that, but it is still a year away, and so we've been working on this for a while, for months behind the scenes, but there's still a lot more things that need to be put together, and we'll just announce this as time goes by. Right now, we have two events that are much closer that we want to focus on. One of those is Gen Con.
What?
I know. Gen Con is only 2 weeks away from the airing of this episode, actually.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. Yeah, that's actually very much true.
Right. So we'll talk a little bit more we're going to talk a little bit more in depth in our next episode that Eric and I do together about Gen Con, because it will be the one that goes up the week of Gen Con.
Yes.
So we'll talk a little bit about that and things that we're looking forward to, but we have a booth there. But one thing I did want to mention is on Friday at 2:00, we have Dice Tower Live.
Yes.
So I was about to say you want to go to that, but maybe you don't. But it has been a lot of fun in the past. Many people have come. It's in a big theater there, so it's just kind of a really fun event. Right now, I'm looking at it, and it looks like there's 1,200 seats, and there's just a little over 300 left. So that's exciting. It looks like there's at least 900 people coming, so that's nice. But if you want to get one, snag one of those, come see us. And then one of the nice things is after it's over with, then you have us. You can find us and talk to us if you want, or not. Maybe you want to run back to the con and buy games. There's so many cool games coming out for sure.
Right. Although I think they kick us out pretty quickly from the space. But you can find us at the
hallway.
Booth. Yeah, we go in the hallway.
Yeah, that's true. Always the general rule of thumb is you want to find us first hour and last hour of the exhibit halls. We're there. We'll post a schedule, though, to show when different people are at the booth, so you have a chance to see them. And this year, one of the things we're working on is we're going to have a schedule at the booth itself, so you can see when people will be there.
Oh, boy, like displayed?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also want to put up the sign that says, "We don't know what the hot game is."
Also, I want one that says, "I don't know where Tom is right now."
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes.
Well, yes. Well, okay. Alrighty. Well, either way, there's lots of exciting games coming at Gen Con, and I'm pumped about that. Let's talk about some of them. I think several of the games we're talking about today are being released at Gen Con.
Ooh.
So let's start with one from Eric.
Let's start with a game from Thunderworks Games and designer Stan Kerdonsky. It's called Lockup.
It's such a good game.
It's in the role. You're jumping to the end. It's in the role-player universe. The only connection really is that it's got the same art style and it has the set collection of Role Player, but this is a worker placement game with a certain amount of bluffing and intrigue going on. You have a set of 6 tiles. You are some faction in a prison, and there are all sorts of locations on the board that represent different areas of the prison. And you are going to take turns placing one or more of your tiles in these different sections. 2 of your 6 tiles over the course of the entire placement round can be face down. You can be a little secretive with your tiles. You've got some that have numbers on them. That is the strength of those characters. There's also one with a fist on it. I think they call it the Enforcer. And that can get progressively stronger as one of the locations on the board is going to make that character stronger. You gain a red cube, and the more red cubes you have, the stronger that fist character is. There's also a lookout, which is going to help you avoid suspicion. These are these black cubes that when areas are resolved, whoever does the best and has the strongest, who is the most strength in that zone, is going to get any suspicion that is in that zone unless the lookout is there. And when all of the black cubes, all the suspicion cubes run out, that is bad news for whoever has the most and the second most of those cubes. So, yeah, you want to win areas, but you don't want too much suspicion, and the lookout can help you do that. After everybody has gone around the table, and you have to place in one of the zones, you can place as many tiles as you want in one of the zones. But once you've placed in a zone, you cannot place again in that zone. And we actually got this rule wrong. I think, Tom, you also got it wrong the first time you played it. Is that correct?
Yeah, like the first time I played the game, maybe a third into the game where you realize it. It really changed the game.
But the big difference, I enjoyed it both ways. We at first were slow playing it. You'd play one tile and then you'd play another one in the same zone as you sort of jockey for position. But the real key to only getting to place one time in each zone is that you're forced to commit. And once you've done so, you can see who could still place in that zone. You know what the other possibilities are for the rest of the round. If I see that 2 out of the 3 other players have already placed in a zone, I know that there's a certain certainty when I place my characters in that area. When these things resolve, they're going to sometimes they're always going to give something good for the first place player, but sometimes you want to be the last place player in certain areas. Sometimes you want to be second. Sometimes you just want to be in there somewhere because you'll get some activation. And you get different resources. You can trade resources. You can even hire goons to be in your crew. And this is where that set collection comes in, because sometimes you just need a nice big set of a particular type. I think dwarves do that. The more of those you get, the more points they're worth. There are some that give you bonuses for collecting certain items, because that's another thing you can do. You can craft these items. I love the illustrations for the items because they're all sort of tongue-in-cheek prison things. There was a teeth brush, which was more disturbing than I expected it to be. But you craft these. They have bonuses, points. They also have set bonuses if you have the proper goons to go with them. And the whole thing plays over 6 rounds. After 6 rounds, the most points is going to win. I liked this. Tom already sort of announced that he likes this one a lot, but I liked it as well. This is not my general style of game. The bluffing and the secrecy and all that, but I did enjoy it. I enjoyed trying to just barely skate by in certain rooms and get the resources I need to try and craft something before the other players. Turn order is vastly important, and the first zone that you resolve is deciding turn order, and that movement also breaks ties. So that first little room can change the course of the entire round because something moves and changes position. Very interesting the way it all cascades. That is Lockup, a role-player tale.
Yeah, I really, really like this game. It's not even that, it's like so straightforward. There's not much complexities. It's just worker placement, but the tense level of it, it's like stress, but in a good way. But it's one of the most interactive worker placement games I've ever had, because every time people placed the workers, I was just sitting there like, don't put them where I want to go.
Yeah, because you have your plan. You need to be able to execute and get certain resources or trade them or Sometimes it's very important that you be the first one to build something in the crafting area. Plus, if you get bumped, there's a library. So anybody that, when a room executes, doesn't get anything, gets sent into the library, and whoever has the most strength in the library gets first choice of books, which are game breakers and sometimes very, very powerful cards.
Yeah, man, it's fun all around. I really highly recommend this game. So my first game is Era Medieval Age. Did you get a chance to play this one, Eric?
I did not play Era, no.
Okay, so Era is a new game designed by Matt Leacock. You may have heard of him. I'm sure he might pop up later in the episode.
I have heard of him, yes.
He's most well known for Pandemic and his Forbidden Skies Desert Island series. Mm-hmm. But he also did a game way back in the day called Roll Through the Ages.
Yeah.
So this is very similar to Roll Through the Ages. It's called a roll and build game. You roll dice and then you have this board which looks like those old boards from like the 70s that you had like pegs and you could put little castles and buildings in them.
Okay.
And that's what it is. You have these different buildings, and so each turn you roll the dice, and you can re-roll the dice up to 2 times, like Yahtzee. But if you roll skulls, you can't re-roll those dice. And you're building a little town, and you use the resources to build different. You get resources each turn, and you use those to build buildings. Some buildings will give you more dice of different colors. Some buildings give you some free resources every turn, and a lot of buildings give you points. And so you're trying to figure out the best way to do it. You're also building walls, trying to wall in a section of it. It has the game could have been done as a roll and write, but it's a very visceral look to the game, having this city laid out there. If you've ever played Roll Through the Ages, it's not the same game, but there's a lot of similarities that this game has, where they'll have, disasters that can happen. But if you roll enough of these skulls, the disaster can happen as other people. There's a little back and forth in the game because you want to roll swords, which lets you steal resources from people who roll fewer swords. I really like it. It has good components. It's a lot of fun. It's a big box. That might be a complaint because people are used to roll and writes being quite small.
Right.
But this one just shows, I really think Mr. Leacock is a fantastic designer. And this game is a lot of fun. That's Era Medieval Age.
Neat. It sounds very much like a new or a jumping off point from Roll Through the Ages. Who's the publisher?
The publisher is Eggert Spiel, part of Plan B. Very
cool. All right, next for me is one that I got to play a lot in the hot games area of Dice Tower Con. In fact, I sat down to play it once and then immediately got another group to play it and then another group. And every time I started cleaning it up to walk away from the table, somebody else swooped in and said, hey, are you getting ready to play? And so I'm like, yeah, sure. Point Salad is the name of the game. It's from AEG. Designers are Molly Johnson, Robert Melvin, and Sean Stankiewicz. It's a very straightforward card game. It's just a deck of cards. And on one side of each card is some sort of salad ingredient. There are 6 different ingredients like onions, peppers, tomatoes, etc. And then on the back of each card is some sort of scoring condition. So it might say on the back, you get 2 points for every tomato, but lose 1 point for every pepper. Or maybe you get 12 points for every complete set of all 6 vegetables. So these are going to be arranged on the table in 3 columns. At the top of each column, you've got the face down, the scoring side up, I guess, on the cards. That's the draw piles. So the whole thing is sort of split into 3 piles. And then 2 cards are placed in each of those columns face up with the ingredients up. And on your turn, you either take 1 scoring card and put it in front of you, or 2 ingredients and put those in front of you. If you take ingredients, you then refill from the column that they came from. So it's possible, if you can see the person next to you is really salivating over a point scoring card, all you have to do is take one of the resources that's underneath in that column, and that scoring card now becomes a resource. You actually are able to turn any scoring cards that end up not being helpful to you into resources as well. So there's always that bailout. If suddenly you see that, I just collected a whole bunch of peppers and this card says peppers are negative, and I don't want that anymore. This is now a carrot. The game continues until all the cards have been drawn, and then you score up points. That's it. The whole thing is maybe 15 minutes around. It plays very quickly. It's certainly filler weight, introductory weight, but it has some choices. It's very tactical. You can't really plan. If you've just taken a turn, you can't really know what's going on the board until it comes back around to you. But it plays very fast, and there are choices to be made. You can grab scoring cards early and then try and build toward them. But if you work too far in one direction, the other players will notice and prevent you from getting. If you load up on carrot scoring cards, the other players will make sure you never see carrots. I liked it. That's Point Salad from AEG.
I really think Point Salad's going to be a game people are talking about for a long time. This game is it's one of those not gateway games, I don't know, it's just one of those simple, easy games. It's like a successor to Sushi Go that you just keep playing over and over and over and over and over.
Right, and the fact that it's just a deck means it's going to be incredibly portable. It'll show up in a lot of people's quivers over the next few years.
Yeah, when Eric is talking quiver, he means his portable gaming box that looks like a quiver for a bow and arrow.
Yes, or just a box. It could be a cardboard box, too.
I will say I've seen, I think, a total of 2 people with them.
With quivers?
Do you have one?
I do.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you take it anywhere?
I take it from room to room.
I wasn't asking that to be judgmental. I was just curious.
No, what I use it for primarily is some of the games that have like multiple boxes. So the Valley of the Kings, I put all 3 of the editions into the quiver, so it's easier to carry them around. Flip City, I have all of those in one quiver, so I don't have to carry around multiple boxes.
Ah, I see. Okay. Well, I mean, it makes sense. I just didn't know if our people knew this or not. I will say, as we are moving on, that this is coming out, I think, at Gen Con, and it's definitely one you want to check out.
Neat.
Alrighty. Well, I'm always looking for new themes.
Yeah.
I'm always wanting something unusual and different.
Yes.
Still, I can be surprised at times, and so Kenny G keeping it saxy. Now, I do not hate Kenny G music. I like it. I know he's one of those artists that it's kind of cool to dislike, I think.
Yeah, but Kenny G has a pretty good sense of humor. I'm okay with Kenny G.
Actually, I thought it was really funny. I was watching some miniature golf.
Yes, holy moly.
Holy moly, and he came out and played a sax in people's ears while they were trying to putt.
Yes.
That I found to be amusing. Well, anyway, so I'm pretty sure he's involved with this game too, if only because I believe my box was signed to me by him.
What?
Well, we don't know. Okay, well, so I saw online that Steph Hodge from Boardgamegeek was going crazy because she had a box signer from Kenny G. Well, mine said to Tom and something Kenny, and then it said there was a signature, but it didn't look like Kenny G. So I compared it to hers, and I said, well, it could be hers, but it's sloppy. But if it wasn't him, then who did sign my box? It's very confusing.
I'm going to say it was Kenny G.
Well, obviously, that's what we're going to say.
You've got a Kenny G autograph.
So Kenny G, the power of jazz, to keep players are working together cooperatively, using the power of jazz to keep Kenny G in the groove.
What?
So what happens is you're going through the course of a day, morning, afternoon, evening. Different events are going to happen to you. They may be the internet is down, or
wait, what?
Your coffee is cold, or unfortunately, sometimes a bad pun on the word sax. So whatever it might be. And then each of these events can be stopped by playing different cards of different colors, which players can do. And these cards have words like biddle and scoodly and bop. And when you're done, you'll be like, dee scoodly biddle bop, and then you get rid of the problem. So really, on a player's turn, they have 3 actions. It's draw cards, switch a card with somebody else, or play a card on one of these problems. And when the card is finished, then it goes away. But after all the players have taken actions, you roll dice for each problem, and it's possible that then some of the groove tokens will go away. If Kenny G loses all his groove tokens, then the players lose the game. It is a very, very simple game. It is a very, very easy game. It is a very unique, interesting game. It comes with a Kenny G meeple piece.
What?
What do you want me to say, Eric? I don't know what else I can say about this. I thought it was okay. I think it's perfect for the audience, right? It is a game in which players can get together and play a cooperative game who have never played one in their lives, and this will work for them. And the theme made me laugh, so I can't say anything more bad about it.
Okay, Kenny G, keeping it Saxy. Last for me is another IP-based game, a themed game. This is based on the Susanna Clarke novel Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. This is subtitled The Board Game of English Magic. It's from Osprey Games, and the designers are Marco Maggi, or Maggi, and Francesco Nepitello. This is so one of the themes of the game is that the main characters have to weigh between being flashy magicians, doing things that get them fame and fortune, and actually studying magic and getting to be better magicians and advancing the craft. And that's one of the push and pulls of this game. You're moving around Europe and London specifically, and you're going to parties which get you resources, and introducing yourself to famous people, which can earn you prestige, which is great for turn order. But it's not the ultimate goal of the game, which is defeating the Raven King. And in order to do that, you have to earn points by completing magical tasks. Feats of magic, they call them. They're these lovely little cards with cool headlines, like, "Woman quite transformed into a cat." I really like the thematic element of these headlines. In order to complete these feats of magic, you have to collect cards, which have little types of magic in the corner. There's 6 different varieties of magic. And then you have to play those in order to put tokens on the feats of magic that you've collected. However, only some of these are going to be available at any given moment. You have a card that gets drawn at the beginning of the round that says you can only cast wind and bird magic this round. If you want to cast any other types of magic, you have to study it, which is one of your special actions for the turn, but that means you don't get other special actions for the turn, like drawing books of magic, which let you transfer certain types into other types, or moving very quickly around the board, or using your character's special action. If you're studying another type of magic, you don't get to do those other cool things. There's also these special actions it's the mechanism where you can do one thing one round and another thing another round, but you don't get to do the same thing again until you take a turn to reset, not do a special action. Still the waters, they call it. And then you can have all of your action tokens back, all of your possibilities back at the beginning of the turn. You continue doing this for the first 6 rounds, and then you have an opportunity to defeat the Raven King, because those cards that tell you what kind of magic you can do, they also move the Raven King's strength forward a good amount, sometimes a lot, before you get a chance to fight him. And if you have collected enough victory points, enough magic strength to beat the Raven King, to meet his total or to exceed it, you win. I guess it's possible for multiple people to do it, and then you see who has the most. But basically, one player is going to do this, or not. And if not, the game continues, and you get 4 opportunities. So 12 rounds maximum. And if you don't defeat the Raven King after the 12th round, he wins, and everybody else doesn't. You can still compare scores and see who's second place. So while I appreciate the theme of this game, I think they really did embrace it. It feels like a game based on the novel. This is a very restrictive sort of game. I felt like I was going through molasses the whole time. It's also exceedingly difficult. If some of the very strong Raven King cards come out early on, you will not catch him. He ends up at something like 36 strength. And the first game we played, nobody was above 22, 23 strength at the end. I did manage to catch him in our second game, but I still wasn't having fun. And I think that's the problem. If you're a fan of the theme, you might embrace it. You might enjoy this. But it is a very difficult game. It is not at all a simple exercise. And everything that you want to do has to go through all these steps. And if you mess up those steps, say you spend all of your cards on magic, on your next turn, you may only have one card to do something on your turn. And that can really mess up your engine. You're going to be stuck for several turns. And if you don't keep that engine moving, you're not going to catch the Raven King. So while I like the theme of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, I don't think the game is one that's going to stick around. Tom?
Well, I've been quiet. But
Notably
this game
so.
is horrifically bad.
Oh.
Yeah, come on. Okay, folks, you should know by now when you listen to this podcast that was Eric grasping at straws to find something he liked about this game.
The headlines are great.
I wanted to like the game also because I thought it was a unique and interesting theme. It wasn't your typical mage versus mage, fantasy mage. It was something different. I haven't read the novels. I want to. They're on my list of things to do. But this game is obtuse, I think is a good word for it.
Okay.
The gameplay, if I'm explaining the gameplay, I think I could do so fairly quickly. But I know I would have to explain it to you again at some point. Because it just, go here, go to a party, go to the party to meet someone at that party, but then you need to go meet them somewhere else. When you meet them somewhere else, well, maybe you don't even want to meet them. Maybe you just want to use their card as a resource, but you can't use it this turn because it's restricted for no apparent reason at all. The game's also incredibly difficult, and it's a semi-co-op kind of. What's the point of even having this? What's the guy called? Thistledown hair dude? Right.
Well, they call him the man with the thistledown hair and the Raven King alternately. And if you didn't realize that those are two names for the same person, you might be confused.
No, they call him the fairy too.
Yeah, so 3 different names. And if you didn't know that those were all the same person, you might be very confused reading this rule book.
But what's the point of having him in the game? Why not just say the first person to get to 20 wins?
So I think it's because they wanted that you could push very hard for victory points and not do anything in prestige and possibly catch him early. But if you ignore prestige, you will not have a chance of catching him later, basically.
No, that didn't work. It has interesting components. It fits the theming of the books, and it has that look to it. And this is one of the times where theme actually is knocking back mechanisms, I think. I want to like it because it's weird and unusual, but that weird and unusual came over, and honestly, the gameplay itself just isn't that compelling.
Yeah.
You're like, ooh, I'm collecting resources to turn them in to cast spells. I've seen that in many, 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 many games, but this game manages to make it complicated.
Yes. One example of the unnecessary complication is the 2 major types of cards that you get. One is invitations, and one is introductions. There's 2 decks of cards. There are certain things that will have you draw one or the other, and it is very easy to confuse them when you read on a card somewhere, draw an introduction. You
right.
can very easily get the wrong thing.
If I recall correctly, they're also not written on the back of the card.
Oh, no, they're not.
So I can never remember which pile's which anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Let's move on to something really unique, I think, in a game called Shou Bou. Now, have you played this one? I keep asking this because I don't know.
Is this the new abstract from Smirk and Laughter?
It is.
Yes. I didn't actually play, but I watched a game demoed at the booth. Yes. Please continue.
So Shou Bou's from Smirk and Laughter, which has divided its line into Smirk and Laughter and Smirk and Dagger. And when games like this come out, they don't make sense where they put it. Okay. It's a 2-player abstract where you're trying to beat the other person. That's not Smirk and Laughter.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if it's Smirk and Dagger either.
It doesn't have the backstabbing that most of the Smirk and Daggers do.
Sure, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So in this game, it's 2 players, white versus black, like many abstract strategy games are. You have 4 boards, 2 light color boards and 2 dark color boards. These boards are 4x4, so there's 16 spaces per board, and you are on each board. that players have, they're going to line up 4 of their stones facing the other person. So it's like you have 4 tiny chessboards,
yes.
sort of. In between the players, there's a rope that divides them. So I have 2 boards on my side and 2 boards on your side, 1 light and 1 dark. But we both have 8 stones on each side. So on your turn, you make 1 passive move and then you make an active move. The passive move can only be done on one of your 2 boards that are in front of you. You can pick the light board or the dark board. You can take any piece and move it in empty spaces in any direction, 1 or 2 spaces. So I can pick up a piece and move it forward 1 space. I can pick up a piece, move it diagonally forward 2 spaces. If I have moved it already, I can pick up a piece and move it 1 space backwards, whatever. You then copy that move with another piece on the opposite colored board. So if I did it on a light board, I have to pick a piece on a dark board. It can be on my side or it can be on your side, and move it the exact same way. But if my opponent's pieces are in the way, I can push one of them, not 2, but just 1, and you're trying to push them off the board.
Yes.
So this sounds a little bit more complex. If I showed it to you, it's a little weird to wrap your mind around, but there's like 3 rules to the game. You have to be able to make the passive move to make the active move. The active move's the one that counts. So the rules are like, figure out what your active move is first, then pick where your passive move goes. That's sort of the case, but you got to watch all the boards. There's like 4 boards, so I might have Eric down to 1 stone on a board. I'm like, I got this board. Meanwhile, I'm down to 1 stone on a different board.
Oh, yeah.
And this game is deliberately made to look like an old, earthy game. The stones are not the same shape, the rope, and it just looks like a game that, you might find in colonial Europe in 1815. It's made to look that way.
Yeah.
I actually like the gifts, the beautiful pieces and stuff, but it works for this game. And the thing is, this game feels like a classic abstract game. It feels like a game that's been around for 50 years.
Yeah, it's also one that could be sitting out on a table and be a conversation piece.
And it's fun. I really enjoy this one. I feel like it's a game you can practice at and get better at. I like abstract strategy games where you are trying to do something simple. This is not get something in a row. It's push someone else off a board. And as you lose pieces on the 2 boards in front of you, you lose your passive moves.
Yes.
It's juicily good. I really like this one. That's Shou Bou from Smirk and Laughter.
Yeah. Again, I didn't actually play, but I did watch a match, and it starts out very simple. You're like, this seems very easy, but if you overcommit on one board, suddenly your ability to move the other pieces becomes very limited. It is tricky, and there's a lot to keep track of, which is great for an abstract. You want that kind of depth.
Well, that's some hot games we played lately. Let's jump to questions.
Tom.
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 Hi, Tom.
How do you pack your hats for safe travel?
If you were stranded on a desert island with one of the aliens from Cosmic Encounter, which one would it be?
Tom, gamers want to know. Is that Eric's real voice?
And now, the Dice Tower will authoritatively, definitely, possibly, maybe, answer your questions.
Tom, which way to the game library?
We're going to start with Daniel, who has 4 questions. We'll take them one at a time. First off, what country do you think has the highest percentage of board gamers? He wants us to take a wild guess. I don't know if Daniel has the answer, or is he testing us, or is he just looking for a good guess?
Congo.
The Congo. See, I would say Germany, just because that's where a good portion of our Euro games come from.
Eric, he did not say take an educated guess.
Right. So let's get super wild and say the Netherlands.
That's still kind of educated.
No, wild. Number 2, are there any good prison-themed games?
The problem with prison-themed board games, and there are some that are out there. The problem with them is a lot of them try to be like hard-nosed. So if you search for prison-themed games on Boardgamegeek, you will find some some games that I don't think I would play in pleasant company. Because
okay.
It's like hard prison. But I guess Mystery Rummy Escape from Alcatraz.
Oh, all right. I was going to say Escape
really
from Colditz, the reprint of the older game, which certainly shows its age, but the reprint from Osprey is really nice.
No, and I agree on that, although I think, and see, I haven't actually played the reprint from Osprey, but from what I understand, it's kind of a game that's showing its age a bit. But this is Escaping from a Prison Camp, which is slightly, or a prison, it's from like a German prison, I think.
Yeah.
It's slightly, like you can be like, yeah, we're escaping from prison, right? But I don't know that there's any games about like surviving in prison that I would want to play.
Not that I know of, no. Hey, so Future Eric here. While I was editing this particular question, my wife yells from the other room, hey, what about Cartagena? Which is technically about escaping from a prison, but you don't really get life inside the prison. So I'm going to say that she gets points for sure, but I don't know if it's what our listener was looking for. Anyway, back to past Tom and Eric. Question number 3. If a rules question that is unclear in the rule book shows up during your first play of a game, do you house rule it immediately, or do you look it up even if it disturbs the flow of the game?
Ooh, that's a good question. First I look through the rule book, then I look it up on Boardgamegeek, then I look it up on the internet, and then if I can't find it, and I try to do this stuff really fast, like look, and then we just say, well, this seems to make sense.
Yeah, I think there's sort of a unofficial time limit for this sort of thing, because if you've reached something, if somebody has a question during the game, and you can still continue to play, and somebody's just like, so what happens if we build 2 of these buildings in the same turn? And no one's trying to do that at that moment, then you can, while other people are taking their turn, you can look it up in the rule book and maybe check forums on BoardGameGeek. But if you have stopped, if somebody's like, I don't think you can do that. No, I think I can do that. I don't think you can do that. And you have to come to a decision before you move on with the game, I think a couple of minutes is all you really want to pause things for. So if you can't find it in the rule book and you can't find a thread on BoardGameGeek that will apply, I make the call pretty fast beyond that. Because, if you don't want to be sitting around forever trying to track down the rules to the game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes I'm like, you know what, it doesn't matter. We'll just do it this way. Oh, okay, fine, we'll do it that way. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal.
I mean, I will often, I feel like this happened, now I can't remember. This came up at one point at Dice Tower Con, and we decided to go with the interpretation of the rule, and we all sort of looked around and said, all right, this is the way we're going to play this, okay? Let's go. And then somebody halfway through the game went, wait, did we say that we were going to do it this way? No, we've been playing it this way, even though it didn't say it in the rule book. But I can't think of the exact example now. Last question from Daniel. How old were you when you started to game more advanced games, and how did it happen?
There's no age for me. I slowly started playing games like that over the years. I wouldn't know where it was. I mean, I could pinpoint maybe Stratego, but then what even is a more advanced game?
I think the only one that stands out for me would be Solar Quest, which would have been middle school.
Solar Quest isn't an advanced game. It's just a variant of Monopoly.
No, it's advanced. It's
Solar Quest,
in the sense that nobody understands it.
It's like the gateway game from Monopoly to Merchants of Venus.
Okay, then, yeah, middle school, Solar Quest. Got it.
But do you agree on that line of thinking?
Now that I think of it, yeah, that probably makes sense.
Because when I first saw Merchants of Venus, your version of it, not the Fantasy Flight one, I thought, oh, that looks kind of like Solar Quest.
A little bit.
We used to play Solar Quest for long periods of time.
Yes, it took me a long time to get anybody to play the advanced rules.
Oh, with the fuel.
Yeah, I really wanted to play. I think I got to play it once. My family finally acceded to my request and nagging to play it. And I was trying to play it with my younger siblings and my parents. And I think we ended early because it It was a lot more trouble than I think it was worth.
Wayne says, I heard you and Eric talking about what you do for bent game boards. I wanted to suggest plexiglass. If you lay it over your game board, it smooths out the surface and is clear so you can see below it. I know it's not a great fix all the time, but if you want something that's affordable that you can keep around and use for multiple games, I have found this to be a good fix.
It's a good idea. My actually game group leader has a plexi that he uses for crayon rail games, and will just draw with dry erase markers on it rather than mark up the board itself. There is that depth of the glass itself that can be a little weird as you're placing pieces on a board and they're not quite lining up because you have that depth of the glass itself. But it's a minor quibble.
Yeah, I've had plexiglass in the past, and I never thought about putting it on top of a board. We put it on top of paper mats, to keep them down.
Yeah.
The thing about plexiglass, this is just a personal thing for me, I guess, is I hate storing it. You lean it up in a closet somewhere.
Yes.
Or in my case, I have that really nice gaming table, so it gets stored underneath the tabletop. But in both places, it gets dirty. It gets streaks on it if you just let it sitting out when people touching it. And if it's underneath the table thing, it gets fuzzy stuff on it. And so I'm constantly cleaning it off and using Windex and rubbing it down. But it's a minor thing. Do you know what? I actually have started using the Roomba to clean my gaming table. I did it once as a joke because we had been using a dustbuster to get in there. And I thought, hey, there's edges here. The Roomba won't go off the table. Let's put it on and see what happens. And it did such a great job. I was like, that's your new job, Roomba.
Wow. How fast? How long does it take? It can't take that long, right?
Yeah, it takes a few minutes.
Huh. I like it.
You're thinking about it.
All right, honey, we're going to get a gaming table now.
Do you have a Roomba?
We do. Yeah.
I think a Roomba is one of the most overrated devices in humanity.
Plan.
It's like, look, a cool robot that will clean your floors, except it will get stuck under everything, in all your wires, and generally will be a pain in the neck.
Yeah, I nicknamed mine Dopey because it gets stuck under the couch all the time and then calls for help. Error. Please help me. Help. So Jason is asking, when you review games, one of the features you look at are the components. And I agree that great components give a great aesthetic to any game. But Tom, you're known for blinging out your games with upgraded pieces,
Amen.
like wooden tokens, metal coins, etc. Usually these are fulfilled by a third-party company like MeepleSource. Also, I like good art in my games. A game board that is artistically pleasing is a wonder to have. So my question, which is better for a game if you had to choose great artwork on cardboard tokens or wooden, plastic, metal components?
It depends, I guess.
Oh.
I don't know. I like great art. I also like those cool components.
I have to say I'm more impressed with the component upgrades, the metal and the nice chunky bits that are very tactile. I appreciate good art for sure. But I would be, as far as an upgrade or a wow factor, usually it's those premium components that get me more than the art.
Yeah, but MeepleSource does that good art on their components.
Sure.
Did you see the birds for
why not
Wingspan?
both? I have seen some birds for Wingspan, yes.
I kept walking over and pointing them out. Look at that. All right, Kevin says, don't worry, I'm not going to try to design this game. Simply curious. If a designer decides to design Tom or Eric's next favorite game, and you played the role of game director, what general elements, theme, mechanic, play count do you believe would give said designer the best chance of achieving this goal? My realistic answer is nothing. I wouldn't even be able to give them direction. Just make a fun game.
True.
I don't know. These are these who put these questions in the doc? I did.
You did, yeah. If I had to choose, I guess 3 to 4 players, some sort of engine building, something in front of me, building a tableau or a control surface or like my own little mini board, something that's mine, that I get to do stuff with, make my stuff better. exploration maybe, but I like that engine. I want to make stuff happen using my resources or controls or powers or whatever. That's at least a good chance for me.
I want mine to be fun. I know that's not what it is, but I mean, I've done top 10, things I like to see in a game and stuff. I don't know. I don't think there is like a set formula. Sure, there's things I like, but then when I don't like them, I get even more angry.
So Becca has a few questions. Starting off, they have recently become parents, and they can't wait until they're able to play games with the child, but that's not where this question is headed. They're not going to wait that long. They want to keep playing games now, but right now a lot of their focus is on the new child. How do you manage new kids and continue to play board games with your spouse and friends?
My answer gets precariously close to parenting advice. So if you don't like hearing other people tell you how to parent your children, then skip ahead here, and I apologize in advance. But for me, it simply is teaching the child that your life does not revolve around them. And you can start that from a very young age. So, like, for example, with my very young children, we put them on a schedule. They got fed, they got clothed and bathed and stuff on the schedule. And at a certain point, they went to bed as soon as we, 8 o'clock at night or whatever it was. And after that point, it was fine. And if, they cry or whatever, and you can feed them. But after once they're weaned a bit, you can even go on dates and stuff and have babysitters watch them. So you could set up the same thing with with gaming if that is what you so desire.
Mm-hmm. It's letting the kids do their own thing, and making sure they're in a safe play space, certainly, but you don't have to have them necessarily on your lap the whole time. You were saying, Tom, that you ran into people with pack-and-plays at conventions, to put the kid right next to the gaming table, and they're having a blast, and the parents are playing a game, and everybody's happy.
Sure, although I would assume that the convention has to be okay with that. Don't use this as taking that in and being like, hey, I don't mind, because there's one thing I know for sure. Your children don't bother you as much as they bother other people.
Okay.
No, that's definitely the case, right? It's something that some people don't think about, but I'm sitting there, my son comes up to me like, hey, Dad, blah, blah, blah. And I talk to him for a bit, and then I'm doing something. He comes up, hey, Dad, blah, blah, blah. And then after 6 times, maybe I'm okay with that. The person playing the game with me, after a while, they're like, you know what? I'm going to go find someone without a kid. And you can call that person heartless and cruel and mean all you want. It's simply the case.
Yeah.
Especially... And think about this, too. You're like, you know what, Johnny, sit in my lap. I'm going to let you move the pieces around and do stuff. It's like, no.
Yeah.
And also, please, public service announcement, please do not let your very young children touch other people's games. If you want to let them mess with your games, that's your prerogative. But if they're bending cards or putting cards in their mouth and stuff, if an adult was doing that to your games, you would probably appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then that person's sitting there and they don't know what to say because they know that if they say anything negative about your child, you will get very angry. It's tough, right? So you have to put all these things into account, but it's possible. I've done it. Also, if you have a whole lot of kids, eventually they'll watch each other. That's not the best advice.
That always works pretty well.
If you noticed, eventually even those with lots of children stop after a while.
That's true. Becca also asks, have you ever tried to create your own game? If so, what was it and what inspired you?
I think that's for you, Eric.
Oh, yes. Tom has a couple of published designs. I don't feel the need quite as much, but I have, as a thought exercise, wondered what I would make, and I think I've mentioned before that I want to do the hex-based curling game, where you've got a team of curlers, and they all roll dice and have different strengths, and then the ice conditions change, and it all ends up being rather complicated in my head, and I rather just play a dexterity game with the curling, and that's why I haven't made the game.
It's not very often that you're able to describe a game that repulses me both on theme and mechanisms.
Yay? Last, Rebecca, what qualities must a board game have in order to be added to your collection? What personal standards do you use to measure their worthiness?
Ooh. So right now, I no longer have a personal collection. It's now the Dice Tower Library Collection, which is going to be at all of our conventions, going from west to east to the retreat to the cruise.
Wow, I'm looking forward to the logistics of moving.
Are you looking forward to that?
I'm looking forward to hearing about it because I'm not down there with you guys making it actually happen.
Well, the only really difficult one is getting it from the cruise to Dice Tower West. Getting it from west to east is not as problematic. We got some time to do that. Getting it from to the retreat, we just drive it there. And then getting it to the cruise, we have to take it to a... Anyway, I'm getting off topic. The point is, adding it to... So when I add a game to that, I'm just thinking, will people check this out and play it? Do I want them to check it out and play it? Because sometimes I'm like, they might, but I'm not putting that game in the library because I want to save their souls. But for my own collection, when I was adding them, I just thought, will I want to play this again over other games? There's a lot of games I really enjoyed, but I might not play them over something else. So eventually I got to the point where I said, will this replace a game already in my collection? That's what I would do so my collection didn't get too big.
Yeah. I mean, my first criteria is thinking of the groups of people that would be playing based on my library. So like family gatherings, playing with my kids, stuff I want to play with my wife. When friends come over for the weekend, that's what we're going to play. If it's like my game group, that's less of a factor because there's lots of people in the group that bring games. But if I see myself playing that game with one of those groups of people, that makes it a possibility. But then, like Tom said, am I going to play this type of game more often than another type of game at this point? If I'm faced with both of them on the shelf, which of the two would I pick? That's when I decide which ones leave the collection.
Kevin says, I don't know if Eric believes so or not, but Tom has mentioned several times he believes that Descent 3rd edition is coming soon. I would like to hear his reasoning for this. I'm hoping he's right because I'm interested in Descent, but don't want to invest money into 2nd edition when 3rd edition is around the corner.
3rd edition will come out when you invest in 2nd edition, Kevin.
That's the truth of it. This is a tough one, right? Because by the time this airs, it's only a couple weeks to Gen Con. They're going to announce something.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe.
So I can keep picking a 3rd edition, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're going to introduce some super interactive type game that's based on the Mansions of Madness, Lord of the Rings, those games used an app and stuff, but this one's going to go even farther and possibly have random dungeons. And so it's going to be set in a Terranoth universe. You're going to go around and find monsters, and I don't know if they'll make it backwards compatible or not, because mostly I'm just pulling all this stuff out of my ear. But it's going to be groundbreakingly interesting, and maybe you'll be able to buy unique packs, because we're going to get Keyforge in here somehow, of monsters and stuff. And I don't know, Eric, but I feel like something's around the corner for a 3rd edition, but it won't be just a straight 3rd edition. It'll be something unique and different.
I'm going to say something similar, although I think they're going to embrace the Android universe again, and the app integration will thematically work because it's all about technology. So, new Android adventure game.
Ooh. I do like Eric's answer. I also like Z's answer. Z said, when we were talking about this earlier, that they're going to make a Fallout living card game.
Jarek says, I was playing a game recently, and this one friend started questioning the rules. This was fine, but it got to the point where there was no answer, according to the rulebook and Boardgamegeek. This question totally ruined the game, and we had to put everything away because we ran out of time. In the end, I didn't get the rule wrong, and everyone was benefiting from the same rule as I explained it. I have to stay away from playing with this person because I would like to enjoy playing games instead. Unfortunately, I might end up playing with him again. Is it okay for me to point out that I don't want to play with him because he takes the fun out of games? Is there a better way for me to handle this situation in the future?
Well, my answer always is to be somewhat direct in it, but I know that's not everyone's shtick. Not everyone can do that, but I get when you have a question and someone doesn't know the answer, right? This is actually very similar to what we were talking about earlier in the Q&A.
Right.
But usually everyone's okay with it. If there is no answer, then just move on. Sometimes I make people roll a die if there's an argument. I think it should be this, I think it should be that. All right, roll a die, 1 to 3, you're right, 4 to 6, you're right. And let's agree to do it beforehand, and let's happen. Also, there's no money on this game. I say that a lot. There's no money on this game. It's not important. So let's just play because doing this is not fun. And this sounded like a one-time thing. You say you want to play it. If you feel like this person's going to do it often, then it might be a problem. But if someone's, I don't know, there's one guy in my game group who, when he comes by, I won't let him look at the rule book because of such situations. But he's managed to find them online.
I think Jarek should give this player another chance. Maybe it will be better this time. I'm not totally sure where the real bone of contention was, but it could be that this player just didn't let it go. Like, I need to know the real answer to this, and you can't tell me what it is, so what good are you? But I think as long as everyone agrees how to move forward, it should be okay. And I like your die roll idea. If there's disagreement as to do we go with option A or option B, all right, if we can't agree, we're just going to roll the die. And as long as everyone knows this is how we are proceeding, it should be okay. And then you can always look it up later and email everybody and say, hey, looks like we played it right, everybody. Or, hey, I guess looks like this is the way the designer interpreted it later. But yeah, I think it's worth at least one more try there.
All righty. Well, that's our questions for this time. Send us questions at questions@dicetower.com. Meanwhile, let's go have some fun.
It's a Dice Tower Top 10!
The Dice Tower's Top 10 list is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff Inc. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.
All right. Well, let's talk about the top 10 words that start with the letter F.
The top 10 words that start with the letter F?
No, that's a different podcast.
That is a different podcast indeed.
The top 10 game designers whose names start with the letter F, both first and last, and have all their words from their companies. Games start with the letter F.
I was actually going to ask you before you looked at my list, but you've seen it now, what the over-under was on Friedemann Friese games on this list. How many you thought there would be?
I would have said 4.
Yeah?
Actually.
Because it starts with F?
No, because 5 also starts with F, so I don't know that means anything.
That's true. Well, I guess, all right, so you said 4. Let's see if you're right.
Huh. Well, some of his more popular games like Power Grid, they were changed when they went to English to a non-F word.
Indeed. And Copycat, another one of my favorites, is also not an F word. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure we should be talking about Copycat. Well, anyway, if you don't know, folks, Friedemann Friese, you'll know him because he has taken control of 2 things, the letter F and the color green.
Indeed. Yes.
When you see him at a convention, he always has green hair. He usually wears all green. And he likes to both make games that start with the letter F and use lots of words that start with the letter F. I have played games with him, and I know this.
So wait, just in normal conversation, he likes to use F words?
This is sounding a whole lot worse.
Well, I mean, not those F words. I'm just saying he just slips them into
F words here.
All right.
On the I wrote special shout out to Flux. Why did I write that? Or did you write that?
You didn't. So you left the questions from our last top 10 list, which was like a special shout out to Looney Pyramids and what makes a game an abstract game. So I amended the questions to what makes a game start with F, and special shout out to Flux.
Actually, Flux made the People's Choice, I think, at like number 25 or something.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Alrighty. Well, we don't have that much crossover, actually, so we better get started.
Number 10.
Let's start with number 10, Factory Fun. I have not played the revision of this, Factory Funner. It's by Corne van Moossel. It is a game about gaining machinery that takes input of one color and outputs to another color, but it's also the logistics of where you place all these things in the factory, because the less efficiently you build things, the fewer points you're going to get when you place these machines. I really enjoy it. Factory Fun, my number 10.
Yeah, I like Factory Fun, not as much as both Eric and Z Garcia do, but it is a good one. I do want to try Factory Funner at some point because the extra 3 letters.
Yes.
My number 10 is a game that is essentially out of print and will never come back in print, but that is Forbidden Stars. Forbidden Stars, this big, grandiose Warhammer 40K space game, which was kind of a reworking of sorts of StarCraft from back in the day. And it's just big. It feels fun. It has a little tiny bit of deck building in it. You're landing troops on planets and fighting each other. It works really well with 2 players. There's very few, Risk-type games, I think, that work with 2 players, but Forbidden Stars does. Unfortunately, it's a little expensive to find, again, because it's out of print, and since Games Workshop and Fantasy Flight no longer work together, likely we won't see it again. But my number 10, and incidentally, the only game that starts with the word forbidden on my list, is Forbidden Stars.
It is the outlier in the Matt Leacock cooperative series.
Yeah.
No,
yes.
It's not. It's a very different game.
Number 9.
Number 9 is from the Matt Leacock Forbidden series. That's Forbidden Desert. This is my favorite of the trio. The shifting sands, trying to uncover sections of an airship. I love the components, and I like the mechanism of how the tornado, the sandstorm, moves around the board, dropping sand everywhere it goes. You can get a dune blaster in the game. This one's a blast. Forbidden Desert, my number 9.
Yeah, I like the Forbidden games a lot. I like Forbidden Desert and Forbidden Island. Forbidden Skies I don't. But they just didn't make my list. But they're very good. But I cheated. Did you see this cheatery here, Eric?
You mean coming up right now? Yes.
Yes. So my number 9 is Fast Forward. You can pick one of the 3 following: Fortune, Fear, or Fortress.
Oh, it's like a choose-your-own-adventure top 10 list.
Yeah, well, come on. I guess if I had to pick one, it would be, I don't know, whichever one I'm in the mood to play.
Huh.
So the Fast Forward series is a lot of fun, except for the cooperative one, which is no good. But Fortune, Fear, and Fortress, I like all 3 of them. And since they're small, I figured I could squish all of them in my number 9 slot. A fast-forward game is a game that teaches you how to play it as you play it. You learn a few rules at a time. And when you're completely done going through 20 games, they're really short games, you can go back and play it again or just shuffle the cards again, whatever the rules are. All of them work when you're done. I like this little series. It got some buzz when it came out. I don't hear many people talk about it now, but I find it to be entertaining. And it also works really well with non-gamers.
That is true. I like the system as well. But when I was looking at the list, even the cooperative one, which I like the best, didn't rank above any of the others on my list. So, yeah, good choice, but one of these didn't stand out for me, that's all.
Number 8.
Number 8, I thought was on Tom's list, but I guess it's not. 5 Tribes is my number 8.
No, that's Z Garcia who likes it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't dislike the game. I think it's fine. I like the first expansion a lot. I think it adds some to it. It's just not one that lights my world on fire.
Yes. Okay. It's you pick up clusters of meeples and you move them around and then activate the tile where you end up, dropping meeples along the way. It's a lot of set collection. You're trying to gain different colors of meeples to trigger actions and bonuses and all sorts of fun stuff. 5 Tribes, number 8.
Well, that was quick and to the point. My number 8 is coming up later on Eric's list because he bid higher than me.
That I did.
Number 7.
Number 7 is another cooperative game, Freedom, the Underground Railroad, the historically based game about getting slaves to the north and avoiding slave catchers, gaining support for the abolition movement. It is a a deeper game than at first glance, and it has a lot of historical context, obviously, and it's also a tricky game. It's not just about the tactics of getting the cubes up north. It's also about saving enough money, earning enough money to get the support you need. Freedom, the Underground Railroad, number 7.
My number, and again, Eric keeps making good choice after good choice here. That's an excellent game. My number 7 is, well, higher on Eric's list. He's burning it up here.
Number 6.
Number 6, Fearsome Floors. There's my first Friedemann Friese game on the list. This is a game about running from a monster. You've got a team of individuals. They're two-sided discs, so on one turn you may be able to move 5 spaces, but then on the next you're going to flip that over and you can only move 2. And there are then rules about where the monster turns as it moves around the board, and there's these tricky elements of drawing the monster toward toward you, and then he turns at the last moment and goes and eats one of your opponents. I really like it. It's also a sentimental favorite. It's one of the few games that I have painted miniatures for. That's Fearsome Floors, my number 6.
It's good. I don't know that this game has aged really well, but I love the theme of it so much. It's just such a neat game, and there's even like a ode to the 3 investigators. Who even talks about the 3 investigators anymore? I don't know. I just really like it. Everyone's running from Frankenstein, Fearsome Floors, great game. My number 6 is Faces, a super duper 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 fun party game that is made even more fun if you play a custom version, which is why it's not number 1 on my list, because the custom version is something just I have. But Faces is just an entertaining party game where you look at ugly faces of various people and or animals and then make judgments about them. You put out some faces like, which one of these people, is judging you from their porch? You're like, oh, well, that old guy is definitely doing that.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. It's a lot of fun. Out of print for a while, but you might be able to find a cheap version of it. Faces.
Number 5.
Number 5 for me is Flip City, the deck-building game with the 2-sided cards where you can upgrade or transform cards in addition to simply buying them from the deck. It's a little tricky because you have to keep the cards in the proper orientation when you shuffle them. So you have to sort of shuffle looking at the ceiling, which is fun. But I like the way that the cards sort of interact and transform, and you can do some cool design things when you flip them over and then flip them back when you trigger abilities. Flip City, number 5.
Flip City is an interesting game, and I'm kind of I'm surprised to see it so high on your list.
I just like the concept.
Yeah, okay. Well, it makes sense. My number 5 is Fireball Island, The Curse of Volcar. This is the new Fireball Island, not the original one that came out many years ago when we were kids. Because that one was fun to look at, but wasn't a very good game. The new one from Restoration Games, just a blast. Shooting marbles at each other. When you add the expansions, having tigers and bees and snakes, and I guess spiders is coming out soon.
Oh, boy.
It's an entertaining game. Family weight. Really like it. And it's fun to roll the marbles down the board. Fireball Island, the curse of Volcar,
Indeed.
Which apparently is a tongue-tied curse.
Yes. Fireball Island just missed my list. I really like it. The redesign is fantastic, and it's a perfect family weight game. My kids really enjoy it. It just didn't quite get into the rankings for me.
Number 4.
Number 4 was Tom's number 7, and that's Flashpoint Fire Rescue, the cooperative game about firefighting. I like the team feel of this. Everybody's got their role, and they're all trying to be most effective. This is also a very tactical game. You never quite know how the fire is going to behave. You have a general sense, but that the roll of that die can bring up a flare when you least expect it. So you really need to make your move while you can, get the people out, and get rid of the hazardous materials as quickly as you can, because those will explode. Flashpoint, Fire Rescue.
Yeah, this is a cool theme about putting out fires in houses and stuff. I really am entertained by it, and I like both. It's interesting because it has an advanced game, which is what I pretty much play, but the family game works okay.
Yeah.
My number 4 is a game not a lot of people have heard of, but it's a great one, Firenze. This is a tower building game, which has a row of cards in the bottom, and you pick one of these cards at the beginning of your turn. Most cards are good, a few are bad. Some cards are better than others, but you have to drop building blocks on each card that you skip. And then you're using all these building blocks to build towers of different colors. So there's that visual effect, there's strategic effect. The game plays, it's a very straightforward game. I like it a lot. There's a lot of great mechanisms. It's simple and entertaining, and that's Firenze.
I am one of the people that have never played this one.
Number 3.
Number 3 was Tom's number 8. He alluded to the auction of this, and it's For Sale. It's a dead simple auction game with 2 distinct sections. You don't even need to explain the second half of the game when you teach this one. You auction off cards, and then you use those cards to bid for checks, payment amounts in the second half of the game. I love the Uber Play edition of this is the one I've got with the adorable art with the escalating buildings all the way up to a space station. But there's lots of different editions of this game, and it's one that can be played with any different groups of people. It's a blast. For Sale, number 3.
For Sale is a fantastic game. It's one of those games that I think should be in everybody's collection. It just works in so many different great ways. If you never played it, pick it up. I highly recommend it. My number 3 is a very big game, the very opposite of For Sale. It's Francis Drake. I like this game because it's split in 2 parts. The first part, you are shopping, and then the second part, you go out and spend the things you bought to blow up ships and things like that, because it's Francis Drake.
Yes.
But in the town, when you're shopping, you can move as far as you want, but once you move a certain distance, you can't go back. It's a great mechanism, really fun game. My number 3, Francis Drake.
Yes, I like the action selection mechanism on this. I think for me, this suffered from trying to play it too late at night at a convention, and it started to drag, and it was harder for everybody to follow along. It's heavy enough that you want to have your wits about you when you play this one.
Number 2.
Number 2 is probably the largest, at least in real estate, of my games on my list. That's Firefly, based on the television program. It's a pick-up-and-deliver / adventure game. This isn't just an efficiency engine. You also sort of need to get a crew and maybe just get a little lucky with this adventure. It's scenario-based. You can play to different totals and different requirements in order to win. With the expansions, it is a very large game indeed, but I really like the way it was all implemented. And when I have the time to play it, I really enjoy Firefly, my number 2.
I gotta say, Eric, I'm really curious. I almost want to say that I feel like you have to play the new Star Wars game.
Outer Rim, you mean?
Outer Rim, because everyone who's playing it is saying that it is essentially a replacement for Firefly.
Is it?
That's
I don't know if I want to
saying.
replace Firefly. I like Firefly.
Well, yeah, but most of us don't have time in our lives to play Firefly. It's so long.
But if I play Outer Rim, I might have to get rid of Firefly. I don't want to do that.
All right, my number 2, very similar to Firefly, which is a lie, is Flick 'em Up. It's a Western game in which 2 teams of people are flicking discs around at each other. I like a lot of the pretzel games. They do these wooden games, and you're trying to do things, but Flick 'em Up is my favorite of the lot. Flick 'em Up is one of my favorite flicking games in general. It's just highly entertaining, shooting at each other. I like it a lot. Flick 'em Up.
I like it as well. I'm not very good at it. Maybe that's the problem.
Well, I'm horrible at it, but that doesn't change anything.
And finally, number 1.
Number 1 for me is probably the deepest of the bunch. That's Food Chain Magnate, the game from Splotter. I know there are complaints about the art, but I would be confused if the art was more of a draw on the board. I like the fact that all I need to worry about are the tokens on the board and the advertising spaces and the businesses. I want my eye to go to that. This has a tricky learning curve. This is one of those where you put a lot in motion and you don't necessarily see the payoff right away. Turn order is vastly important here, as is your structure and who you hire for your organization, but it offers so many choices. Food Chain Magnate, my number 1 F game.
I mean, I wasn't even going to bring up the board. I don't know why you're like defensive on that board.
No, I think you were going to bring it up.
No, I wasn't. Actually, what I'm going to bring up is Eric's going to have to play Food Chain Magnate at Dice Tower Retreat.
Am I?
Because I bought some upgrades for it.
Really?
Yep, hang on. It's in this package here in front of me. that's taped together like some madman. I got it out. Okay. So this is a extra boards here for Food Chain Magnet.
Extra
I don't know
boards?
what these mean. Yeah, no, it says first to hire 3 people in a turn. First to train someone. First billboard placed.
Okay.
No, anyway. But I went to eBay and searched for dollhouse pieces. Dollhouse food.
Dollhouse food. Okay.
Yes. So I got little pieces of pizza, little glasses of lemonade with straws.
Oh, my goodness.
Little mugs of beer. And what's the other thing? I think chicken?
It would be burgers, pizza, and there's 3 beverages. There's cola, lemonade, and beer.
Yeah, I got everything. I got it all. And I also bought sausages and potatoes and a bunch of things that didn't matter, but I might use them for other games. You know, you're mocking and laughing, but I bet when you see it, you'll be like, I want to play it.
Okay. If I will give it a try.
You have to. It's your favorite game, Eric.
Yes.
That's how life works. When someone says, you have to do it, I believe it's a law.
Yes.
You have to do it.
Well, yes. Sure thing, boss.
My number 1 is A Feast for Odin. Did we mention a Dice Tower Retreat earlier? I remember saying there's 2 shows, and I think I just mentioned Gen Con.
That's entirely possible, yes. You may not have mentioned that.
Quick advertisement here, folks. The Dice Tower Retreat registration is closing down really soon. This is where we all get together, like 150 people or 200. It's up to you. If you want to come and join us, and we're going to play games like all get out. That's all we do for 4 days straight.
Yeah, no real special events. It's pretty much here's the library, go to town, everybody.
It's super fun. So that is coming up, and it's coming up in September. So if you want to get involved, find DicetowerRetreat.com. Anyway, A Feast for Odin. Oh, I love this game. It is my favorite Rosenberg game at this point in time, although I still really do like Cavern and Le Havre. But Feast for Odin, this whole Tetris-y thing mixed with a worker placement board where I just have so many choices that makes my head expand. And I'm like, what should I do this turn? Anything I want. So fun. And I really love it. The expansion's fine. I like the expansion. I can play with or without the expansion, but I really enjoy A Feast for Odin, my number 1 favorite F game.
Yeah, this is certainly a strong contender. I've only played this once, and that one time, Tom, you taught me the game. It was when you came to the portal here in Connecticut, and so that's the one time I've played it. I haven't played it since because I was so dizzied by all of the options. I do appreciate it, though. It's a strong game.
You know, you really can't say much about that when you just said Food Chain Magnet.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think it's time to move to the People's Choice.
Number 10 is Freedom, the Underground Railroad for People's Choice, mentioned by Eric. Number 9 is a small card game from Renegade called The Fox and the Forest.
I just purchased this one from a recent Cool Stuff order. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, though.
I have not played it either, but Z likes it, I believe. Number 8, Flashpoint Fire Rescue. 7, Food Chain Magnet. 6, the solitaire game Friday.
I considered this one. I really like Friday.
Well, let's circle back around to Friday in a second.
Oh.
5 is A Feast for Odin. 4, Forbidden Island. 3, Forbidden Desert.
Okay.
2, For Sale. And 1, Five Tribes. Very, very popular
All
game.
Right.
So back to Friday, I believe on your list you only had one Friedemann Friese game.
Isn't that interesting? I was surprised too. Like we sort of mentioned at the top, my favorite Friedemann Friese games are not F Friedemann Friese games. There were several that sort of were circling around the periphery, but every time I was figuring out the rankings, the other games on my list just moved ahead of like the Fast Forward series, like Furstenfeld and some of these other games that I've enjoyed from Friedemann Friese, but they just didn't make the top 10.
Well, here's the thing. So I just pulled up his list. His number 1 ranked game is Power Grid. And then, I'm not doing it by rankings, I'm doing it by number of people who talk about him. Then Friday, which the People's Choice mentioned.
Yep.
Fearsome Floors, which you mentioned.
Yep.
Then there's Factory Manager, but it's called Power Grid Factory Manager.
That's very true, yep.
Then there's Felicity the Cat in a Sack, and that's a good game. It just wouldn't make my top 10 list. Fabled Fruit, Fauna, bunch of Power Grid stuff. Familia, Funny Friends.
I didn't like Funny Friends at all.
Fuji Flush, Fast Flowing Forest Fellers, 504, which I guess sounds like it starts with an F.
But we have a number list coming, so that one doesn't apply.
I don't know if it will make that one either, but just saying. Then all the fast forward games. So I had 3 Friedemann Friese games on my list in one slot. I win.
I think you do. I was surprised that that I didn't have more Friedemann Friese games on the list.
Well, there you go. Folks, thanks so much for sending in your entries to this. And, of course, you can always go and vote on our top 10 lists on the website. Go check it out and vote on whatever the current top 10 list is. That's exciting, to see what you guys think. And that's that. We'll be back in 2 weeks. But before then, next week, Mandy and Suzanne. So come in and listen to them. And I'm just pumped. It's summertime. Lots of stuff going on. We're excited about the future. You can always contact us on Facebook and all the other stuff. And I feel like I'm starting to say Eric stuff in the outro. So I'm going to end here. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This episode, number 615, was recorded on July 11th, 2019. Mandy and Suzanne join you next week, and in 2 weeks, Tom and I run through our top 10 7-player games. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is dedicated to providing support to members of the board gaming community in their hour of need. If a catastrophic event has become more than you can handle, find out how we can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Mandy, Suzanne, and Eric, with assistance from Rob Searing, Chris Barr, and Roy Kennedy. Speeches made by 4 ducks who land on a remote ice floe and simultaneously sprain their ankles, brought to you by the Quacks of Limburg. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at CoolStuffInc.com. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower network, including Boards and Swords, Dukes of Dice, Four Corners of the Board, Board Gamers Anonymous, Blue Peg, Pink Peg, The Geek All-Stars, The Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast, and Dice Tower Tonight. Find out more at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. I think if we did like our top 20, the 8 out of the next 10 would be Friedemann Friese games.
Wow, are you sure about that?
Not really. I mean, maybe I'd say that and then only like 6 would be, but I wanted to put that crazy one with the 3 different versions of the game where you can play like 15 people at once, but it's only available in German. Maybe that's too obscure.
Then some of the groove tokens will go away, and if Kenny G loses all his groove, then... Thank you. Now go away and close the door.